Okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome. We're going to wait just a minute for others to come in because we have a few people. We'll always have a few stragglers, and but we're not going to wait too long because we want to reward all the people who came promptly. So, but welcome everyone. And happy Sukkot. We hope you're enjoying this holiday.
Happy Sukkot to you, Brianna.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, well, I think we'll get started because I don't want to. Yeah, let's get started. Let's get started. Well, I want to welcome everybody who's here with us. Just a couple of reminders about, we are doing this as a meeting, not as a webinar. So if everyone will remain on mute when they're, unless at the end, we may be able to ask some questions live. So let's all go mute. We'll listen to Daniel, Rabbi and Dr. Daniel Kripper. And if you want to focus on the rabbi as he's speaking, you can change your view to focus on the speaker because he will be speaking. So, and that way he will be the large part of your screen. Okay, well, I am just thrilled to be welcoming Rabbi Daniel Kripper to tonight's presentation. I'm going to tell you a little bit about him. He was born in Buenos Aires, Argentina, received his diploma in sociology, focusing on social psychology from the University of Buenos Aires. He received his rabbinical ordination from the Latin American Rabbinical Seminary in Buenos Aires after finishing a rabbinical program in Jerusalem and postgraduate studies at the Hebrew University of Jerusalem. He received the Doctor of Divinity diploma from the Jewish Theological Seminary in New York. He completed professional training in clinical pastoral education in the United States and directed healing and emotional support programs for the ill and their families. He was a professor and dean at the Rabbinical Seminary in Buenos Aires and has served as a rabbi for congregations in Brazil, Argentina, Uruguay, and the United States. He has been deeply involved in interfaith dialogue and has acted as an advisor for international interfaith organizations. Throughout his career, he has specialized in education, life coaching, and spiritual counseling. In his professional work, he combines his preparation in social sciences and psychology with the ethical, spiritual teachings of the Kabbalah. Since 2013, he has been the rabbi at Beth Israel on the island of Aruba. His book, Living Fully, is an invitation to live a spiritually engaged life. It is a guide to freeing ourselves from the limiting beliefs that often keep us from realizing our potential. This means taking responsibility for steering the ships of our lives, leaving behind excuses and fears, and setting ourselves towards places of fullness and meaning. The rabbi doesn't offer magical solutions or easy advice, but provides challenging questions and practical suggestions to light our paths towards self-fulfillment, which is what we all are longing for. In this book, different values, including compassion, generosity, and gratitude, are examined through a wide-angle lens from teachings of ancient wisdom to breakthrough concepts of modern science. Through inspiring stories, quotes, and anecdotes, this guide shows us the way to lead our lives according to who we really are, while also benefiting those around us. I'm just going to add a personal note. I loved this book. It's available in English only on Kindle, as a Kindle book. But for $4.95, it is the best $4.95 I have spent in a long time. It is a wonderful book. Easy, practical, and it just gives you so many tools to live a good life. In fact, in the past few weeks following COVID resurgence and a hurricane, I have had the opportunity to put many of the teachings from this book into practice. I know you would find it useful too. When I send a post meeting email, I will put a link to purchase the book. And if you are a Spanish speaker and reader, you can purchase the hard copy, which is available in Spanish. Okay, I'm not going to delay anymore because I want to introduce you to this accomplished person who has a wonderful message to deliver to share with all of us. Rabbi Daniel Kripper. I'm turning it over to you.
Thank you, Brian.
Okay.
Thank you for introducing me, and I'm very excited of being here with you all. I'm going to send you the check, by the way, for promoting my book.
Oh.
This was part of our agreement. So I'm very pleased to introduce the book, which is called Living Fully. It was written originally in Spanish before the pandemic got started. The title of the book in Spanish is Vivir con mayúscula, which is more or less the same idea of the name of the book in English, its translation, Living Fully. And I would like to start just telling you a little bit about why I wrote this book. It's a very personal book. I wanted to share with my people, some of the teachings of the wisdom literature in general, and also some conclusions of modern sciences about how to live a full life. And I mean life in the sense of, in Hebrew, the word life, as you know, is chaim, which is in the plural. There is no singular for life. Life is it's in plural. That means that it's a kind of multifaceted thing, phenomenon. So living a full life means living your full possibilities. According to Kabbalah, there are two ways of functioning, operating in the world from your mind perspective. There is mochin de gadlut and mochin de katnut. By the way, I'm not going to use too much Hebrew during my presentation. Just a few, I would say, keywords. Mochin de gadlut means an expanded consciousness, a large consciousness, and mochin de katnut means a small consciousness, okay, from a small perspective, like operating from a certain routine, okay, without mindfulness. So my idea was to share some conclusions, some teachings from both from the wisdom literature, religion, philosophy, anthropology, neurosciences, and also from other perspectives as well. The topic of the book, Living Fully, is, I would put it in other words, how to make good things happen to you in uncertain times. How to make good things happen to you. In other words, there are certain things we've got to do in order to live a good life, an expanded life, a multifaceted life. And there are things that we should refrain from doing, things that we should avoid. So in the book, I present both things, both aspects. I am presenting ideas, suggestions, proposals, what things that could be done, should be done in order to improve the quality of your life, of your soul, of your being, and things that you better stay away from. There are 9 chapters. The first chapter, I'm dealing with gratitude, how to be grateful. And the last chapter, the very last chapter, deals with happiness, with capital H, happiness. Okay. It's a very important topic nowadays. It became one of the most trendiest topics. So why not starting with happiness if it's so important, so crucial, so vital in terms of our modern perspective? Because in my view, happiness is a byproduct of other things, of the previous chapters. There are previous steps we've got to take in order to live a happy life. We're going to discuss a little bit later what does it mean happiness also from our perspective. By the way, happy Sukkot, Chag Sameach to all of you. There are at least 3 concepts I would like to dwell on in order to introduce ourselves into the spirit of the book. We are speaking about times of crisis. And we are definitely living under difficult circumstances nowadays. It's been almost 2 years. We're living with the pandemic, COVID-19 around. The world has turned upside down in a complete mishigas, okay? Crazy. Everything got crazy. And the question is how to face difficult times from our perspective. How to face and to deal with circumstances that are part of life. As the book of Ecclesiastes says, there is a time for everything. Remember that famous chapter? There is a time to be born, a time for dying. There is a time for laughing, and a time for crying, and a time for planting, and a time for uprooting, etc. There are all kinds of times of light, times of darkness, and times of crisis are part of our life. Life could be very messy at times. And my question was, what are the best resources we can use in order to face all difficulties, discomforts that life presents? Bad things happen in life. We cannot avoid it. A friend of mine called these moments of discomfort, problematic moments. He called them bum moments. Bum, okay? Things that disrupt our peace, our quiet life. They are totally disruptive. See COVID-19, how it has disrupted our lives, changed our plans, our lifestyle, our routine. Everything has changed. The way we relate to each other, all the safety measures, the distancing, all the distancings. I had so many plans, like you probably too, of travels, of meetings, of doing things, but we have to change. So the first concept I would like to discuss about is the concept of resilience. Resilience. The human beings are able to resist any crisis and to face any situation. We as human beings are capable of adaptation and flexible enough in order to find solutions, to find ways of surviving. We are doing it for millennia. That's why we are here in the first place. So according to experts, resilience is the capacity to survive difficult situations, to bounce back from a crisis, an obstacle, and come out stronger, invigorated, even transformed. There is a famous parable I would like to share with you. It's a little story. Are you familiar with the two frogs? There were two little frogs trapped in a bowl of milk. And they kept swimming and jumping in order to get out, but they couldn't make it. They were trapped. And after a while, looking up there to the edge of the bowl, they realized that it was too high and too steep in order to get out unaided. So one of the frogs realized that it was impossible, and stopped jumping, stopped swimming, and drowned. The other frog realized that something could be done in spite of the obstacle, in spite of the difficulty, and kept swimming without giving up. And all of a sudden, the milk turned into butter. And the frog used the butter as a foothold in order to get out. So this is a little parable in order to teach us that under certain circumstances, it's so important to persevere, not to give up, and to fight, to resist. And the frog, once out of the bowl, the frog came out stronger. And this is the point of resilience. What experts are saying, how to cultivate this quality of resilience. In Hebrew, resilience is called chosen. Chosen. It's kind of a mix of strength, courage, inner koyach, inner strength. Okay, not to give up. Not to give up. It requires energy, strength. I would say courage is very important. Courage. Courage comes from a Latin word, cur, which means heart. Is a quality of your heart. But we might think that resilience is something innate, that there are people who are more resilient than others, or there are people with less resilience than others. That's probably true. But nevertheless, resilience could be trained. There are ways, there are certain techniques how to cultivate inner resilience. Let me bring you, can I bring you very briefly? This is not a sermon. I'm not preaching here, but this is a lovely midrash, a pearl from our sources, okay, from the Jewish wisdom. And it speaks about resilience. You remember when the children of Israel were about to cross the Yam Suf, the Red Sea, okay? That particular moment, according to the Torah, they were in a moment of perplexity. They didn't know what to do. Behind them, the Egyptians coming to get them. In front of them, the raging waters. They didn't know what to do. Moses then started praying, okay? And then God told Moses, this is not the right time to pray. Tell the children of Israel to keep going, to keep moving. And as people were kind of paralyzed at that moment, there is one guy who jumped, who stepped into the water, jumped in, and until the water started to cover him up to almost to his nostrils. And once it was almost out, all of a sudden, the sea parted, the waters parted. The miracle happened. You know the name of the guy? Well, this is not for a biblical chidon. By the way, this episode is not mentioned in the Torah itself, in the text. It's a midrash. It's a rabbinical legend. This guy was, then his name was Nachshon, son of Aminadab. It took action. While all the people were paralyzed, okay, were totally lost. He decided to take action, to jump into the water, to take the risk. And then the miracle happened. According to the Torah, the miracle happened because it was just a miracle, a wondrous thing. But in the Midrash, according to Midrash, a human action was needed in order for the miracle to take place. So human action, taking action, is part of the process of resilience, doing things, not reacting, but acting. Assessing the situation, being very realistic, and looking for solutions and opportunities. This is the secret of resilience, looking for opportunities for a better life. Remember, resilience is not just surviving, not just resisting, but transforming, being transformed by the crisis. Because if for instance, at the end of the COVID, God willing, very soon, it's going to be behind us. But if tomorrow, we pray very soon, the COVID is over, I'm afraid that we're going to go back to what we were before, without being transformed by it. Drawing some teachings, some conclusions, some insight. What happened to us? What can we learn? Of course, the world will not be the same in terms of technology, ways of communicating, etc. Of course, it's going to be different. The fact that we are discussing now online, this in itself is a byproduct of the COVID. But I mean, in terms of human life, in human values, are we going to be transformed or business as usual? We're going to go back to business as usual as they were before. So this is very my personal question. And there is also the concept of associated with resilience and facing difficult situations or discomforts in life is the concept of hope. Well, hope it's a key concept in our tradition, in Jewish tradition. The national anthem is hope. Okay, Tikva. It's of the essence of our faith and of our tradition. Rabbi Jonathan Sacks, chief rabbi of England, Alav Shalom, he said something interesting. He made a difference between hope and optimism. They sound very similar. They sound almost the same, okay? Being an optimist, okay, or a person of hope. But according to Rabbi Sacks, he said that optimism is a person who believes that things are going to get better. He believes that things are going to get better. This is optimism. Whereas hope is the belief that together we can make things better. Vive la différence, okay? It's a huge difference because according to Sacks, being optimist is something passive. Doesn't require much courage to be optimist, okay? It's passive. I'm optimist. The glass half full, etc., all the cliches. But hope means together we can make a difference. This idea of making a difference speaks about a proactive attitude. Values of attitude are very important in terms of resilience. And there is one person who coined this the expression, values of attitudes. Okay, there are the values in terms of philosophy, ethical values, values of creativity, abstract values, but there are values of attitude, like the ones of Nachshon, okay, Nachshon, being brave, moving forward, despite the danger, despite the threatening situation. Because he was a man of faith. He believed in a miracle. He believed in a vision. And last but not least, I mentioned that the last chapter of the book is happiness. In Hebrew is osher. Osher. Remember, there is a saying, you know, a cliche, that in Eskimo culture, there are a dozen of words for snow. Okay, we have only one word, snow. But Eskimos developed the concept. There are many words. In Jewish tradition, there are at least 10 words for happiness. 10, okay. Simcha, Ditza, Chedva, Rina. I hear all these words in the wedding celebration. Whenever we recite the 7 blessings, there is a list of all the words, all the good wishes to the couple. May they live a life of full happiness. Perhaps that's why there are so many words, because happiness is also a multifaceted thing. First of all, we want to define what happiness is not. This is an easier way to discuss happiness. Happiness is not something to achieve. It's not dependent on any accomplishment. For instance, people say, well, when I get that position, I'm going to be happy. When I get married, I'm going to be happy, okay, etc. But it doesn't work this way, okay? Because, okay, once you get that position or you accomplish that goal, you can be happy for a while, for a week, 2 weeks. You buy a new car, okay? You are happy. That was your dream. A new car. So you're happy that day, 2 days, 3 days. But after a while, there are other things that come up. Okay, you forget about that. Whereas happiness, in that sense, is something more permanent, something that stays, that is connected with something deeper. And that's why I put happiness as the last chapter, because in order to reach that state of happiness, of bliss, of fullness, that state of flow, you've got to do several things. For instance, first chapter, say thank you, be generous, acknowledge things. You're not alone. You live with others. Be more generous, more cooperative. Develop strong relationships. By the way, these are things I've been saying for years and years in my sermons. Okay, high holiday sermons. Okay, the importance of giving, of tzedakah, etc., etc. And all of a sudden, when I started exploring the topic and doing my research, I found out that these values are part and parcel of the modern research, modern science conclusions. Positive psychology, neurosciences, cognitive therapy, logotherapy, all of them are saying it's good to be good. It's good to be a good person, not because it's written somewhere in the Torah, in any religious book, or because it's God's command to people. It's good because it adds a new perspective, a sense of well-being, in a positive light into your life. It helps you to live a better life. And the person who coined, and this will be my last observation before we can have a little conversation, an interactive thing, is values of attitude. The person was Viktor Frankl. Probably is well known for perhaps most of you. He was a great mind, a brilliant mind, a concentration camp survivor of 4 concentration camps, Auschwitz included. He was a psychiatrist and a researcher. And at the concentration camp, he decided to become an observer as much as he could, okay? Instead of playing victim or being another prisoner or inmate, he view himself as in the role of a professional, observing the attitude, okay, the behavior of the inmates. And he, just in short, he realized that the people who had a reason to keep on living, they survived, or they were better equipped for survival. They were stronger. They had a reason. Okay, people, for instance, who dream after I get out of the country, I'm dreaming of my grandson's bar mitzvah, or any other goal, family reunion, happier events. So the people who had those dreams, they were able to resist, to become more resilient. So he called it values of attitudes, nachshon attitude. So in order to become happy, you've got to have a reason. You have to align yourself with a cause bigger than yourself. This is called meaning, finding meaning and a sense of purpose in your life. And by the way, this is the title, the very title of his book, which became one of the greatest bestsellers on the 20th century, Man in Search of Meaning. This is his own testimony and description of what he saw in the most dramatic terms and scientific terms. You know, how was possible that people didn't give up? Okay, these are the main topics. The main topics, just to give you an idea, just to sum it up. The topics I'm dealing with in the book, it's almost impossible just to give you an overview, but just to give you the titles of the topics of the chapters. The first is a big one. I couldn't even touch upon that topic tonight, which is gratitude. Okay. Fears, how to face our fears. How to develop new habits, which is the most difficult thing in life. How to transform yourself. And one of the main theses of modern science is that people are capable of change. This is a revolutionary idea. There is no age in which you can stop changing. Okay, even from the neurological perspective, your brain continues to grow, to transform itself through new pathways between neurons. Okay, so you can develop new ideas and new feelings, for your emotions, and that might affect your behavior. You see, it's all interconnected from the holistic perspective. Other topics, I'm dealing with rage, negative feelings, toxic feelings we should avoid, positive things, positive qualities, positive virtues, compassion, generosity, how to become more forgiving. You cannot be happy if your heart is full of resentment, of grudges, of hate. How to become more forgiving. And it's not only for Yom Kippur, okay, for Atonement Day, which is kind of the day par excellence, devoted to that. But it's kind of, it should become part of our routine, of our lifestyle. and at the end, some ideas, some suggestions, some insights about happiness. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rabbi Kripper. This only scratches the surface. I have to say, I'd like to open it up to questions, possibly people, I'm going to go to a whole group view, gallery view, and hopefully I'll see if you raise a hand and would like to ask a question. I'm going to start with one. I'm going to start with a question. Since I'm the boss, I can ask a question. One of the things that I loved about the book, Rabbi Kripper, was how you saw the emotions or states of mind in both positive and negative ways. Things like fear. You gave an example of the mother who fears for her child, and wants to protect her child, but that can also be negative in that it turns the child into a fearful person that may become a fearful adult. It can disable if carried too far, fear. But that fear, while fear protects us, it can raise awareness, and I'm using your words, it raises awareness, but shouldn't stop progress. So how did you come up with, it seems like in many of these topics, you will raise the issue and then show us that it can be looked at in a positive way, even if it seems negative.
Mm-hmm.
Anger was another one that I was just so struck by. Anger, it can hurt the person who's angry, but it can also spur them to want to change things. People were angry at the death of George Floyd. But rather than just be angry at the people who committed this crime, it's the anger that spurs change. And I just loved that concept. Could you tell us a little bit more?
Yes, of course. My pleasure. I would say that every situation is unique. And it's very hard to generalize and saying this is the only possible response. It depends on the situation, on the people involved, in the particular circumstances of the case. For instance, in some cases, being angry is the right response. For instance, if something wrong happens around you, in society, okay, in society, could be a political scenario, a situation, or some injustice that takes place, like racism. Okay, I'm totally enraged against racism. I'm angry at because of anti-Semitism. I'm reading the newspapers. By the way, one of the things that I recommend nowadays is to read less news, okay? Not to be too immersed in bad news, okay? But every situation requires a particular response. It's good to react and to do things or to take positive steps. The key word is, in my view, it's balance. Okay, to try to keep a balanced thing between one and one extreme and the other, not to become an extremist. Okay, not to be too fearful, but to be cautious. don't lose your mind. Okay, try to keep a balance between the extremes. Okay, just for instance, being generous, it's a good thing to give, but don't give it all. Okay. Okay, try to keep certain proportions. Okay, it's good to be a giver. This is the point. Our tradition give you some ideas, some suggestions, how to give, when to give, etc., etc. Give you some orientation, but don't overdo it. Don't stretch it too much. So it's good. The fear is very important, okay, in order to preserve your life. I'm teaching now a seminar on fears, okay, analyzing certain cases, certain situations, okay, and how to deal with our fears in order not to lose perspective and not to become paralyzed by the fears. This is what I try to explain with the biblical picture, okay, of the children of Israel. They were children. Okay? That's why they were called children of Israel. They were like children. Okay, they didn't react like adults. Okay, mature people. They were not mature enough. It took them for a while to mature and to grow, okay, and develop themselves and become real people, people of valor. But thank you for the question. Good.
Does anybody else want to ask a question? I can go on.
I do.
Okay, unmute and speak.
Okay. This is Helen. A lot of people have experienced some horrific losses because of COVID. And I wonder how you would counsel people to rechannel their feelings of loss into a positive way to deal with this terrible.
How to rechannel? Could you repeat it, please?
Yeah, how to a lot of times when people have a terrible loss, you know, like for example from COVID or a loss of a child,
Of course.
it's how do you? A lot of times the reaction is anger. How did this happen to me? You know, how did this terrible thing happen to me? So how would you try to rechannel your emotions into maybe a more positive way of looking at things, looking at these things?
Yeah, thank you. I got it. Good. Perfect question. Well, that's a challenge. That's quite a challenge to re-challenge, because the easiest thing is to play victim. Okay, to complain in a bitter way, okay, to be bitter, to become bitter, a bitter person. Why is this happening to me, etc. So one of my colleagues, I've heard this sentence from her. She said that you've got to change the question. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? The question should be, why is this happening for me? In other words, turn it into a more personal question. Now that this happened, this bad thing happened, okay, this crisis, could be the COVID situation. You yourself know from firsthand what it means going through difficult times, okay, stormy times. What does it mean for me? What can I learn from this situation? First of all, you've got to assess what's going on and ask yourself, in which ways can I become more positive? more proactive, perhaps becoming more helpful. First of all, you are not alone. You are not alone. You are part of a collective. We have seen so many blessed initiatives during COVID of people collecting money, helping each other, becoming more involved, in terms of solidarity. So these kind of things are very positive. It's a way of channeling the negative feelings of complaint, of bitterness, into a personal challenge. How can in which ways can I collaborate with my group? All the nets, the safety nets around the crisis. I don't know if I answered your question, Ellen.
Very well, thank you.
Anyone else? Just speak up.
By the way, just to add one word, in addition to social action programs or actions, which are very important, I think it's very important to teach people how to better react in terms of external circumstances. For instance, I think under difficult circumstances, it's very important to incorporate new habits, to take good care of yourself, for instance. For instance, if you, most of us, been through lockdowns, try to use the time of lockdown in a positive way, in a useful way. Don't get mad, okay, as much as possible. For instance, you can use the time in order to listen to new programs, to expand your horizons. There are so many things that could be done staying home. You may visit the greatest museums in the world. Okay, you can listen to wonderful podcasts from the best speakers in the world, writers, philosophers, whatever. What's not? You can also dedicate more time to your soul. As a colleague of mine said, soul feel instead of selfish, soul feels. Okay, dedicate more time to your spiritual life. Why not meditate? Do some yoga. Do some prayers. Our tradition is full of suggestions and teachings. How to wake up in the morning saying thank you. Every morning I survive. I'm still alive. Okay, it's my personal triumph against COVID. And I help others to survive as well. So more time dedicated to you, to your well-being, and also things about others as well. Keep your mind busy. Focusing on vital issues and learning new things. Take a course, learn a new language, a second, third language, or whatever. There's so many things. Okay, sorry.
I thought I heard somebody else. Go on.
Kind of a weird kind of combination question of, you talked about a bunch of things about making sure you take care of yourself, making yourself happy, forgiveness, boundaries, and all these things. Many of us have senior parents, and we have to do things to take care of them. But sometimes that can be very difficult. They can be very difficult. And sometimes we feel like we're being taken advantage of. They can be sometimes kind of cruel. And sometimes you have to like say, I've had enough. I'm not going to take this anymore. And forgiving yourself by setting those boundaries is kind of difficult, because your mental health and your happiness is important too. And like when you're dealing with it in this whole atmosphere of COVID, hurricanes and everything else, it becomes even more difficult. And I just kind of wanted to get your take on all that, because in the Jewish tradition, you have to honor your parents. We had this melting class. You have to honor them, but you don't have to love them. You have, you don't have to like them, but you're supposed to take care of them. But you have all these competing conflicts, and it's very difficult, especially when you're the only child around. But you have a parent that's very, very difficult. So I wanted your input on, like, within your framework of your book, what are you supposed to do? How do you manage that?
It's very hard to give an opinion if you don't know the people involved.
Yeah, I know.
But as a general, you are right that the Torah commands us to respect our parents, to give them honor and good care, etc., as much as you can.
Right.
As long as you don't get lost in the process. Okay, you've got to, first of all, you've got to take care of yourself. Like in the plane, when you board the plane and you listen to instructions, okay, what to do with, who comes first, the mask, okay? First of all, you've got to put your mask and take good care of yourself in terms of your habits, in terms of your safety, etc. Take good care of yourself in order to remain strong, healthy, good habits, of sleeping, eating, etc. Okay, don't kill yourself. And again, the key word is balance. To keep a balance, which is very subtle sometimes, very difficult to set limits, but boundaries are important in life. You come first. It's not a matter of egoism, that you're thinking only about yourself, etc. No, I think it's very important to think about yourself. Love yourself as ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. You shall love your neighbor as you love yourself. You've got to love yourself first in order to love others. So taking care of your parents is a sacred duty, I would say, because you owe them on one hand, okay? Besides being a biblical command, of the 10 Commandments, etc. But still, you've got to not to lose perspective. In concern about your person in the first place. You come first.
Okay. Thank you.
Terry, I just want to say something to you. Just remember, he's as frustrated and as unhappy as you are. At this time of life, he probably can't do what he used to do. He probably misses his friends, people that he, when you moved him here, he had to come to a different place. So he's miserable too. Sort of think about that. To the rabbi, you just seem so happy and joyful and not necessarily amused, but you're very lighthearted, and there are some people that are very serious and serious minded, and you know, they want to be happy, and they can be so like I'm grateful. I'm grateful that my house is still standing, but I'm very unhappy that the rain came through my bedroom and came down to the first floor. That's I guess the happiness is that it could have been worse. But every day it's hard to every day be positive when you're a serious type person, if that makes sense.
Right.
That you're not so lighthearted all the time.
Mm. So you're saying that, so what's your point?
Nothing, just that you seem very lighthearted and spirited, and you're laughing, and you can, you know, make lemonade out of lemons, but not everybody is equipped with that ability.
Yeah, what my thesis was that there are certain things that could be learned, could be trained. We can switch from the negative to the positive in any given situation. You can see blessings in disguise. Okay, this is part of our life, and the fact that I'm light-spirited and laughing and all that, it's part of my training. I'm not this way. I'm just, you know, I'm pretending.
I want to say you've learned good habits.
Make it, fake it till you make it.
I was just gonna say that, fake it till you make it.
This is the point. Fake it, laugh. Okay, do some silly things. Tell jokes, listen to comedy. Do fun, okay? It's possible to change your mood by values of attitude. It's possible to change your mood. If Viktor Frankl was able to survive a concentration camp, okay, which a death camp several times, okay, are we able to survive less threatening or lethal circumstances? So I'm not downplaying any crisis, any difficult situation. For instance, here in Aruba, of course, there was people, you know, many tourists are calling us. Americans, of course, are calling, you know, asking for the when is the hurricane season? Okay, they don't want to come to the island. So the answer is there is no hurricane in Aruba. Aruba is a free hurricane island. We are below the hurricane belt. In the south of hurricane belt. Now you see I'm promoting Aruba now.
I haven't been there.
So I have no clue how to survive a hurricane. Never in my life I have survived a hurricane. I have no clue. So I imagine that it must have been very hard and cruel, of course. But again, remember that resilience could be trained. It's possible. It's possible to acquire new habits, new options, new ways of dealing with things, and facing new circumstances, and adapting ourselves to different conditions.
I also want to mention that
As long as we are flexible enough, okay, and we don't become, closed in ourselves, or too rigid. The problem is when you become too rigid, like a cedar. Be more like a palm tree, bend but without breaking. Okay, this is the key, the secret of resilience, of becoming resilience. I like the gerund, the gerund in life. I'm using it a lot. It's we are not either resilient or non-resilient. Okay, we are becoming resilient. It's a way of becoming. Okay, of course, it's like training your muscles. If you would, everyone has muscles. Okay, we come to the world with muscles, but if you would like to grow them, to make them grow or develop, you've got to go to the fitness room. Okay, do some working out. Okay, there is no way other way. You've got to train them, to train your muscles. So resilience is a muscle. It could be trained, could be developed, could be make it. Okay.
I just wanted to.
And the last word. I took this gerund thing from a great psychologist of our time. He wrote a book called Becoming a Person. Carl Rogers. He's one of my mentors, okay, in counseling. Carl Rogers. Okay, he wrote a book called Becoming a Person. Okay. We were not born persons, okay? We keep becoming, okay? Becoming by learning things, by adopting new things, by enriching ourselves, by talking to others, by relating to others, reinforcing our relationships. This is key to happiness, to resilience, just to strengthen your bonds with your community. This is why a community is very important. It's a blessing that you have a Jewish federation and organized Jewish life and synagogues with programs, with plans, with assisting plans, social action plans. This is wonderful. Sorry.
No, that's great. Well, what I was going to say is, if you're interested in working those muscles, in your book, at the end of each chapter, often there are, I want to say, exercises to put into practice, whether it's gratitude or how to deal with fear. There are things that you can do.
Or not to kill your mother-in-law.
Right. So, and that's another thing that was so great about the book, is that it's very practical, and it's not preachy. It's I love that there's quotes, there's stories, parables, and quotes from everybody from Oscar Wilde to Aristotle to Buddha to Maimonides. Wisdom from everywhere, and also the practical lessons of how you can put these things into practice. So, yeah, I encourage everyone to start exercising.
Well, remember, practice is everything. Practice makes perfect.
Right.
And when it comes to values, it's crucial. Just take a pause while you read the book and try to put some things into practice and see how it works. Because there are certain things that work for me, but perhaps they don't work for you. Or you can change them, adapt them. okay, they are not written in stone. Okay, you can change, adapt it. You can become more creative, okay, and develop new things. But practice is everything. Put them into practice. And if you have any questions, you have my address there. You can refer them to me, and I'd be more than glad to stay in touch with you.
Okay, that's great. Rabbi, I really appreciate this. I want to thank you. It's been a terrific introduction to your book, and we are so grateful for you donating your time to us to make this presentation. I think it can definitely count for you as a major hurricane relief effort on your part. It is terrific. I know there are many who want to read the whole book, and I will send with the follow-up email a link to the book on Kindle. And you don't have to have a Kindle. I don't. And but they will offer you a free app to use on your iPhone or whatever device you have. So and I want to thank you and go on.
And I would appreciate, Brian, I would appreciate if you may write a review on Amazon if you can.
Yeah, I did, and I would, and also Goodreads, which is connected to Amazon.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, but that definitely, it makes the book come up faster when people are searching. You know, we have all learned, I am grateful, putting into practice gratitude, that the pandemic is bad, things that's brought bad things. It has given us Zoom, that has made this kind of meeting possible for us to meet with people all over the world. And I think we're gonna try to look into moving to Aruba, where there are no hurricanes. So,
well, hurry up, because I'm going to stay here in Aruba.
I know. Yeah, I think you're maybe coming our way. So, but I can't thank you enough, and I appreciate everyone who joined us. And we may just have our own little exercise class to put into practice some of your teachings, and we'll let you know how that works out.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all, and all the best. A happy holiday for you. Chag Sameach. Happy
Chag
ending
Sameach.
of the holidays of Tishrei. All the
Right.
best, and thank you for
Thank
listening.
you.
And
Thank you so much. We
and
really
connecting
appreciate it.
with the program. All the best. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chag Sameach.
Good night,
Chag
everyone.
Bye,
Good night.
Marcela. Bye, Liliana. Bye.
Have everyone wave bye. All right, thank you.
That
We'll
was
see you
good.
again soon.
How long is the book? How many is it?
140 49 pages. It's not a big tome.
Sounds like something we can all use.
No, it's great. It really is a great book. I mean, I'm not, no kidding. It's easy and great ideas. So, all right, we'll maybe have a group class and read the book.
Yeah, I'm gonna get
Okay.
it. Okay.
All right, see everybody later. Have a good night.
All right.